Amid a growing surge of Omicron cases in the country, Israel, meanwhile, has reported its first death due to the variant. Prime Minister Naftali Bennett has warned of an unprecedented storm of COVID-19 cases in the country and even a possible nationwide lockdown. According to Israel's health ministry, the victim was an 84-year-old woman infected with this variant. Israel reported a surge of 623 Omicron cases on Tuesday, bringing the country's total tally to 1,741. Israel is recording a record surge in Omicron cases on a daily basis of late, and it is now on its way to becoming the most dominant strain in the country. The Prime Minister has also decided to alter regulations in order to keep the surge in check. According to the latest rules, if any fully vaccinated individual comes in contact with an Omicron patient, they will then have to go under self-isolation until they test negative for the virus, following which they will have to avoid public places for the next 10 days. Ramping up its preparedness to deal with the variant of high concern, Israel has approved emergency use of the antiviral pills called Paxlovid. Approved by the FDA, the drug is the world's first at-home treatment for the coronavirus. The country has also launched a study on a second shot of the COVID-19 booster shot, which essentially means it is a fourth vaccine against the infection. Israel has introduced tight travel conditions due to the spread of the highly infectious Omicron variant of late. People abroad who want to travel to the country must now request for a special exemption. But at this time, the system is struggling, and many people are not too happy with the new rules. Our correspondent Jody Cohen spoke with the former parliamentarian Dov Lipman, who now runs an immigrant aid organization. Listen in.
Dov, thanks for joining us. The process is clearly overwhelmed, with only at most 20 people apparently working on requests from 24,000 people for exemptions to the travel rules. 2 years into Corona, what should the process look like? And should the government have the right to limit freedom of movement in this way, albeit temporarily?
It's so difficult for a government which is so concerned about protecting public health, and they get information very quickly about variants that are coming. So decisions are often made before the infrastructure is in place to deal with it. And on the one hand, I understand why that's done, and we need to protect people's lives. And I'm happy that Israel has done a remarkable job doing so. And hopefully now there'll be some catch up, and there will be the manpower in place to deal with the number of requests that are coming.
Now, you've been lobbying the government in Israel throughout the COVID pandemic, helping to reunite immigrants to Israel with their loved ones abroad. Can you give us some examples of the difficulties faced with the current travel restrictions?
There's no doubt that the moment that a country decides that people can't travel from Israel to, let's say, a red country, and we have tens of red countries throughout the world, that creates an issue because people have to travel for work. People have to travel for loved ones who are ill or loved ones who have passed away. And the country has to find a way to enable those people to travel. For those who want to come into Israel, there's challenges on a similar level. There are family occasions that people want to be able to deal with. And that's very, very challenging to find the right mechanism between, on the one hand, allowing normal life to continue, but also protecting people and the public health in Israel. So I think overall, Israel's done a very good job dealing with it, but there are tens of thousands of requests per day for help. And we as an organization, Yad L'Olim, are trying to keep up with that.
The government has imposed these restrictions, obviously, in order to protect public health and in particular to delay the entry of Omicron into the country. Now that Omicron is in Israel, there is talk of lifting the travel restrictions. Do you see that happening?
I do see the restrictions being lifted. What the Israeli leaders said was they wanted to buy themselves some time to understand exactly what this variant is and how it works, so that when it does come to Israel, they'll be able to deal with it properly. They didn't think that they could possibly keep it out. It's just a global world where people are traveling, and it's not going to there's no way to protect the country hermetically. But I do think that now that they've bought themselves that time, now that the variant is clearly spreading in Israel, we will see an easing of the restrictions over the next few weeks, country by country. And now Israel will focus again on how to deal with the variant that's inside the country.
WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.